Thank you for joining us for the rural and remote community-based strategies presentation that we just had with Hart, Kathy, Josh, and Lori. And we will start with the questions here. We will start with the question from Robin. Is there a focus on offering LGBTQ2S support services in rural communities, especially for youth? Josh, did you want to answer this one?
Certainly. So I can only speak to the area I serve.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for joining us for the rural and remote community-based.
Sorry, I was getting some feedback there. Yeah, so for my particular service area, Middlesex County, I wouldn't say there's any particular focus on it, but all those groups are definitely welcome within the youth programming that's currently available. All of the programs I refer to that specialize in youth services, all definitely welcome the LGBTQ plus group, but I don't believe any of them have a significant focus directly upon that group.
Is there anyone else that wanted to add to that? Hart?
Well, as community navigators in Chatham, Kent, we do collaborate with as many partners as we can across all of the different smaller communities within our municipality. And so therefore we do at times connect with groups who have support programs available to the LGBTQ community. And we definitely connect anyone who has needs coming into the library, or interest in any of that. We can connect them directly with a warm referral, or sometimes, a meeting up in the library with an individual or a partner, community partner. So it's a bridge. That's what our program is.
Excellent. Are we ready to move on to the next question? Yeah. So our next question is from Joshua Austin. He asked if he can receive a copy of the presentation to access these resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can send it to him.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Holly. I was just gonna say, do you know if there are ways for the attendees to get the presentations, or do we have to send them out ourselves?
I believe they can be posted online through, okay. But we can find out, and
okay.
I'll ask if they can post something online by the end of the conference.
Sure. Okay.
And then we have a question from Tim I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. Sorry, Tim. What was the criteria to enter your transitional housing hotel stays?
Well, for Middlesex County, the first criteria would have been being a county resident. You need to have proof that you do live in the county in order to access that service. And then secondly is more needs-based. I wouldn't say there was necessarily a hard set criteria. But the idea is if you have nowhere else to go and you could use someone else to stay for a little while, typically they would reach out to me, explain the situation, and I would forward the information along to Middlesex County Social Services to determine eligibility. If they were on social assistance already, either through Ontario Works or ODSP, that would definitely help out a bit because the county would already have their financial information, even if they weren't on social assistance, and if they were maybe on EI, or even if they were employed, if they were able to prove need and kind of present their income source and their financials, they could look at being approved at that point too. Typically the program would run 2 months at a time, and while they're at the motel, I would be present on site at least once a week to kind of help them explore some housing services.
Excellent, thank you. The next, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just to add, again, we work really closely with our emergency rapid rehousing program that the municipality of Chatham-Kent has set up as a shelter for those experiencing homelessness. And it was set up quickly during the beginning of the pandemic. There are criteria, but again, in my role, we connect the individual to the service, and then all of that information is then shared with them. Like Josh said, there would be requirements that, that they are a member of the community. And again, if that meant that they were not eligible for the program, then we would give them other resources to lead them into other, maybe community transitional housing programs and other programs.
Lori, did you have anything to add to that one? Oh, you're just on mute. Let me unmute you.
I think Kathy has covered it. Josh has covered it. I was just having some difficulties. I was in getting a lot of feedback, so sorry I had to leave and come back in again. Yeah.
All right, we will move on to the question from Dawn. Is this funded like a CHPI program, Community Housing Prevention Initiative? Also, how do you deal with warming center supports in areas without shelter supports or transportation concerns?
My program is funded through CHPI, Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative. I don't know about the Chatham-Kent team, but my program is funded through the CHPI. And for the warming centers, that definitely was a challenge during the pandemic. Typically, without really any emergency shelters in Middlesex County, the libraries were often used as warming centers, at least during the day. They were closed, unfortunately, to the public for a good chunk of the time during the pandemic. They are open now with limited hours, but kind of beyond that, if someone were to require that kind of service through connections with Middlesex County or the social service department, I could look at securing maybe some taxi funding to get them to the closest big city, which is London, to maybe access some of their supports.
So in terms of Chatham-Kent, we honestly, I'm not sure now where our funding is coming from for our program. So that's something that we could certainly get an answer for you if you'd like us to. Definitely it's social services dollars. And we were supervised under the umbrella of the library services. So library services was just supporting us for a period of time as well. In terms of housing us, now we are strictly employment and social services. So that is now in terms of the second piece of that question was, I'm sorry.
The second part was also, how do you deal with warming center supports in areas without shelter supports or transportation?
Right. Again, as community navigators, our role in Chatham-Kent is just to be aware of those warming centers and make the referrals and let people know where those locations are. As far as employment and social services, the experiences have been that they have actually reached out to some of our shelters that through the pandemic have closed down. We had a men's shelter that closed out due to lack of volunteer support, and they have provided dollars to allow them to expand their opening hours. Again, as Josh said, our libraries, when they were open, became cooling and warming locations for individuals. Yeah.
Thank you. So our next question comes from Shavira. How do you ensure presence in communities which aren't frequently visited by community navigators?
Well, I guess for me, I do frequently visit them. I'm currently on a rotating schedule. I'm at least in every major library once every 2 weeks. And then even beyond that, even the smaller towns do require some assistance from me, I'm more than able to make the trip out there if required.
as I had already said in our presentation, we do visit all 11 branches of the Chatham-Kent Public Library. We did mostly before the pandemic hit, and then everything kind of was brought to a standstill as libraries were locked down. And now that it's reopened, we visit the 2 main branches, but do show that we are flexible by being available to anyone who calls any of the branches for our assistance. Lori and I will travel out to any of the 11 branches to meet with an individual if need be. So we really worked hard at the very beginning of our program when it first launched, the Community Navigator program, to keep really good data as to how many we were seeing in remote branches. And we built our schedule around needs-based so that we were going where we were needed most, but everyone knew that we were available and continue to be available for them.
Thank you, Kathy. So our next question comes from Roslyn. She would like to know, do library staff work with 211 Southwest Region or 211 WUW and London Community Foundation? Is there any duplication in your work?
For the 211 thing, maybe the information side of it, there might be a little bit of duplication there. But the variety of service we offer beyond just providing information, I think would eclipse what the 211 service would be able to offer. And personally, the London Community Foundation was mentioned here. I am associated with them as well, at least kind of through providing stats and information, and I've also written a guest blog post for their most recent vital signs.
And if I can just add to that, Josh, as well, that with the 211, certainly I agree there would be some duplication. If the information is not updated, then that can become a problem. And we have found that folks coming into the libraries, they want to see that warm body. They want to see that person. And the other piece that I was thinking of as you were speaking, Josh, is that often some of the folks we're seeing don't have access to 211. They don't have a device, they don't have a phone, they don't have access. So when they can come to a community library and get what they need, it's just that much better for the population that we are serving because we're there in person.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that as well, another benefit to the fact kind of that 211 may not be able to provide is that we, beyond just information about the services in the area, we also have the connections with the services in the area. We can reach out directly to our community partners and the staff that work there who we have connections with to make those referral processes much easier and much quicker.
Absolutely, Josh, that's a good point. Thanks.
Thank you. And Dawn had a comment here. She only asked because all the services that are what we see HPI in North Durham offer. So she was curious, and she also said thank you. We have 4 minutes left, so we can quickly go to the live chat and see. There was a question posed, I believe, in here by Roslyn. Are the library programs working with local poverty reduction tables? Oh, you just answered that one. For Hart Walker, were the school boards identified as community partners in your interviews to help kids reconnect with family and friends and to stay in school?
They were not, no. Unfortunately, you know, as a doctoral student, you have limited resources. And when I was doing the homeless enumeration part of the study, which I didn't talk about in the presentation, but that was a component as well. And I'm not sure if school boards were reached out to initially, but we we didn't partner with school boards for the enumeration. There were no schools that were enumeration sites or anything like that. So yeah, so no, unfortunately, they weren't part of my interviews, but I completely agree that that's an absolutely essential piece that, you know, should be contacted in any system dealing with youth homelessness.
All right, there's one more comment from Roslyn. Fair enough, personal support is key and digital access is definitely important. Our experience is different with 211. I'm not sure what that is. Central East. I'm with United Way, Simcoe, Mamoska. I said that wrong. Sorry, guys. Did anyone have any closing remarks?
I just want to touch on something you had started mentioning about one of the statements asking if connected with the local poverty table. Again, just speaking kind of for the Middlesex County region that I serve, there really isn't one. But that said, I am involved now currently in the launch of a Middlesex Homeless Action Committee to address some of the growing homelessness concerns in our area.
Do any of our other panelists have any parting words? No? All right.
Yeah, I just want to add, if I could just add one thing, is that the Community Navigator program for Chatham-Kent was very new. And when when Middlesex reached out to us to, you know, get some information on the same concept, you know, we were able to share the journey that Kathy and I went on to develop this program with Middlesex, and we continue to collaborate with Josh and share information back and forth. But it really is a program that is unique to your municipality, based on the number of rural areas that you would have. Like Kathy mentioned, we have 11 different branches that we can visit within our library system. So I think that, you know, it's a concept that isn't actually cookie cutter. You have to make it work based on the needs of your community. Just in closing out.
Yeah, it's a program that can be very unique to each municipality it offers services to, because again, the population base is definitely important, and even the other services that are already operating in the area, your community partners. I mean, often, you know, smaller communities have less resources, so it does kind of encourage further collaboration with community partners to make sure there's no gaps. But yeah, like Lori had mentioned, even though our programs began in a similar spot, they kind of evolve differently depending on the population that we were serving.
Great. Thank you, Josh, Kathy, Lori, and Hart. And thank you to the participants for checking this out, and good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.